Hey everybody, Shane Robb here with Micro Message. I'm live today in Neptune Innovation Studio where you can come and record webinars just like the one I'm doing right now. Today's webinar is actually a recap of another webinar that I just watched. How cool is that? So I'm going to put in the link, the actual full webinar that I watched, so that all the stuff I talk about, you can go back and watch it in full length and it all makes sense if anything comes across confusing or you just want more info. So what was the recap? Well, what was the webinar that I watched? It was called Present Your Webinar Like a Pro. And that's something I think most of us probably struggle with, is being in front of a camera, being in front of an audience. Just being in front of people in general can be a little bit intimidating at first, but it doesn't have to stay that way. You can actually train yourself to become so comfortable in front of the camera, so comfortable in front of people, that it's just second nature. It's like just walking into the mall. It's like walking into a store. It's all about up here, getting this under control. Because where your focus goes, your energy flows. What we think about, we bring about. If all you're thinking is, oh my gosh, I'm scared. Oh my gosh, I don't know, what if I mess up? If that's all you're thinking about, that's what you're going to bring about. So you got to get that under control. Now this will give you some good tips. What I'm going to put up on the board, it's going to explain a few things that's going to hopefully be helpful to you. And if you struggle with being in front of people, being presenting, doing any of the stuff, you should find a little bit of help and clarity in what I'm about to bring. So if you're ready, I'm going to get started. First, a little bit about me. Okay, I'm married. My wife Lacey, got 3 daughters. One's 14, 11, and 7. And yes, it is awesome. It is fun all the time in our house. We've got always different challenges because with all these different personalities, my goodness, you never know what you're going to get. Life is truly like a box of chocolates. But we have fun with it and we roll with it. So let's roll on. First thing that I took from this workshop was this thing, this camera. Yes, talking to it. Talk to it. Look at it. Make a connection. Everyone communicates, but few connect. So make a connection with the audience that you're talking to. The second thing that he talked about, which the guy's name was Dean, I'm going to write it right up here because that's what you're going to want to kind of focal point on, is structure. So we want to do your structure right there. So structure. So the structure is just what it sounds like. The layout of the whole webinar. How you want everything to flow, the points you want to go through, the main focal point, the big idea. So opening, we open with an intro. So your intro is pretty simple. It gets everybody calmed down. Because what he mentioned was, in the intro, go ahead and know that when you're doing a webinar, or you're doing a Zoom call, or you're doing anything like that, people are going to naturally come in late. It happens, okay? But when people come in late, what happens? You get notifications. You know what? You're going to have people come on and their microphone's not going to be on mute. So you got to have the opening intro where you're really, your whole purpose is you're just trying to make sure that anybody stepping in late doesn't mess up the flow of maybe a main point with all the notifications. Now, the second thing that he talked about was expectations of the agenda. So you want to have your expectations. And you know what? I didn't spell that right, but you know what? Not a big deal. Expectations. So the expectations are, what is this going to be about? You want to give the audience, you want to give the people watching your webinar the big idea. Like, what are we going to do here? What's the purpose of this? Well, we went ahead and put it up in the title, which is Present Your Webinar Like a Pro. That's the big idea. We want to know how to do that. So that big idea, that big promise, that's going to give you the bullet points. It's going to give you basically the focal point of everything that you're about to do. Because here's what he put in the notes. He said, you don't want to just give the answer away to whatever your big promise is, because if I give you if you were going to go watch a movie, for instance, say a movie, say you were going to go watch Avengers Endgame, and I just told you about the ending. I said, oh, you're starting the movie, but here's the ending. Okay, do you really need to stay to watch the whole movie? No, now you know the ending. So don't give the ending away to the movie. Build up to it, because the build up is what keeps people hanging in there to the end. Because one of the stats that we put down there was that in most of these webinars, they're massive fall off rates. By the time you get to the end, of about 70% of people fall out. That's huge. So be enough of have enough of an idea that people want to keep learn about it, but you're building to that idea, not just throwing it out there right away. Next, we want to do, he put diagnose. So diagnose. What are we diagnosing? What is diagnosis? It's solving a problem. What problem are you solving for people? So this is the reason why. Like, what are you trying to solve? Well, obviously here, presenting your webinar, the problem we're trying to solve is overcoming the fear of doing it, or maybe just the logistics, how to lay it out. Okay, that's what we're solving. Now we want to dive into that and explain it a little bit. So one of the notes he had on here that I took down was, here's the reasons why most people struggle with webinars. The product obsession or sales obsession. They're so worried about selling it that they forget to actually explain why you need it or help people. So you don't want to just be pushing and so focused on pushing, because guess what? People do not care how much you know until they know how much you care. Why am I doing this? Because I care to let you know about what I saw. Because I know it was helpful to me, and I know it'll probably be helpful to you. So people want to know that. So product obsession, so your focus is wrong. That was number one. Your focus is wrong. That's one of the reasons that we fail at these things. Now, dependence on slides. If I'm dependent on my notes here, if I have to have these notes to do this, then I failed already. I don't want to be dependent on this, because if you are so focused on slides, if I had slides running right now and I was just worried about the slide or focused on the slide, well, I can't focus on you and the slide. And guess what? If that slide goes away, then everything I have is lost. I need to be able to do this without slides. Now, the slides are something that enhance it and make it better, but I should be able to do it without them. You want to be prepared to go without. So, and then not engaging the audience. If I'm not engaging, if I'm over here and I'm just talking to this and I'm not really bringing you in, and I'm not really including you, if I'm just standing in one spot looking in my book, at some point you're going to check out. So that's why I'm moving. That's why I'm stepping in, I'm stepping out, I'm moving over here. I've got my hands going. I'm creating movement because it captivates. It keeps the busyness going on where you're not distracted by other things. So we don't want the background to be distracting. Like, if you're paying attention to me, then you're listening to me. If you're paying attention back here and all this stuff and your focus is gone, you're not focused on me or what I'm saying, you're focused on what's in the background. So, engaging with the audience. Do you keep the audience? Are you interesting? Okay, John Maxwell. I'm John Maxwell, certified coach, trainer, speaker. Number one rule, one of the number one rules he says, don't be boring. Just don't be boring. Don't be boring. So, when you're engaging the audience, ask the question, do you have them on the edge of the seat? Like, are they leaning in? Are they ready to find out? Tell me more, tell me more. Or are they going, man, when is this going to be over? I mean, can I just click out now? I mean, you know what it's like. You've been on a Zoom call and you're just like, unless they make you have it live stream, I mean, how easy is it just to put your picture on and then go do something else? We've all done it. Don't be boring. Why should they stay to the end of the event? Just like I talked about the movie earlier, what reason are you giving them to stay? Because they want to find out the ending. Make the ending worth being there. Make it exciting. Make it be an adventure to get there. And because, like I said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So then we went down and he put down protocol strategies. Okay, so on the slides, so I'm just gonna put this down as one, because how about this? Keep it simple. Keep your webinar simple. Keep your slides simple. If you have a slide that has so much information that they have to stop and just sit here and read it, once again we go back to distraction, that's taking away. Keep it simple. Maybe it's just one quote. Maybe it's just one point. Don't overload the slide with too much content. I mean, because I know maybe you've been to church or you've been to something and you're trying to write down and the slide and you're like got the scripture up there and it's like 20 verses long and you're like, oh gosh, oh gosh, oh gosh, will I make it before they end? And then you didn't even hear what the preacher had to say. You were so focused on writing down 20 things you never heard. Once again, keep it simple. Keep it simple. And I've already touched on this. Don't be boring and change things up. So I've really already covered some of the stuff here. Silence. Don't be afraid of silence. He mentioned pacing. Okay, so here's some of like when it comes to communication, this was kind of a touch up on communication through a webinar. So pace the way you communicate. So what is the pace? It's like running. If you're running a race, runners understand pace. Okay, you can have a fast pace, I'm moving faster, or you can have a slow pace and you're moving slower. So when you communicate, the pace of your webinar, it should kind of be like this. You should have a nice flow. You don't have to be up here. You don't have to be down there where it's really slow. Just kind of keeping that nice flow. And then the tone of your voice. You can speak really loud. You can be really direct, or you can be really soft. You can keep it down low. So the tonality of your voice. So those two things have to work together. They have to intertwine. So the pace, the speed, how fast or slow you're going with your presentation, but then the tone of your voice as you go up and down. Maybe you're highlighting a point. Maybe you're excited about something. You don't want to get excited, so I'm speaking faster and I'm excited. Or maybe I'm just trying to bring it in and let you really think about what I just said. It's okay to pause. It's okay to be silent. Guess what? You're not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. It's okay, because what silence does is this. Silence gives you, the audience, a chance to catch up mentally to all the stuff being said. Because if you're running a race 100 miles an hour, you need a break. You need a little moment to catch up. So the pauses, there's so much power in a pause because it allows you a chance to catch up. So don't be afraid of silence. And silence typically looks like a pause, and it can feel awkward. It can feel weird. But embrace it and learn and train yourself to become used to it, because it's actually doing more for the audience than you realize. And then regardless of crowd size, okay, this is a thing Les Brown talks about this in some of his things. Always give your best. I'll tell you a story about Les Brown in his book Power of Purpose. And he had an event that he was doing. And in the middle of his event, he likes to do charity stuff. So one of the charity events that he did, they said, hey, we're going to bring you 400 or 500 people. Just come. And he's like, man, I'm really stretched when I go do my normal events to go and step outside and do something else. He's like, but you know what? If you're going to bring the people, I'll show up. So he's got this promise in his mind, 400 to 500 people. So he shows up. And when he gets there, guess what? There's like 5 people there. Nobody. There ain't no 400 or 500 people. There's like 5. So he just kind of goes through the motions. He's like, whatever. Just kind of throws it loosely to him. Doesn't really give his best. And then he just gets in and gets out. And he's going back to the hotel because he's tired. He's been doing another bigger convention with probably several 100,000, 1,000 people or more. So this was just an extra. Well, that night when he got home, there was one of the boys that were at the 5 people at that event that he went to that he didn't do his best, and they called him up and said, hey, Mr. Brown, want to talk to you. And then he's like, it's the middle of the night. He's like, what do you mean? What do you want to talk to me? Like, they just keep calling, and I told them not to call, but they want to talk to you. So he gets on the phone, and the guy says, Mr. Brown, he said, yes, what is it? What is it? He said, you said deal with things as you find them. You got to give your best. He said, you didn't give your best. He called him out. He said, what are you talking about? He sat up out of bed then. He realized he didn't give his best. And the boy didn't stop. He didn't give up. And what ended up happening was Les had figured out, and he's like, hey, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And the guy says, you know, it takes a big man to say he's sorry. And Les said, he said he got down on his knees and he prayed. And he said, Lord, he said, I promise I'll never do that again. He said, I don't care if there's one person in that audience. I'm going to wear that one out. So that's the kind of attitude that you have to have, is you have to be willing to give your best no matter who shows up, because here's the other side of that coin. You don't know who's in the audience. You don't know who they know. You don't know what could turn out from that event. And nowadays, there's a camera usually always on you, so you don't know how far your influence is going to reach. So next thing we have on here is and the ending segment, like kind of breaking this thing down as you get to the end. Q&A time is huge. So question and answers. So you want to make sure and take time to ask questions, because what's going to happen is that's where people are going to find out how much you actually know. That's where people are going to get to see you think on your feet. Like, if I could see Q&As right now, I would ask you, like, what do you think so far? What about this is standing out? Do you have any questions? If I could answer a question right now, you would get to see me think on my feet, because I don't know the question you're asking, and I'm going to have to come up with an answer. So you get to see, like, does this guy actually know what he's saying, or is he just, kind of BSing his way through it? Well, that's the beauty of Q&A time, is people get to see what you know, and that you would be amazed at the influence that builds, credibility that builds by being able to answer questions in those moments. And then he had a call to action. So if you are selling a product, if you have something to give away, do a call to action, because if you don't ask, you won't receive. Ask and you shall receive. You have to ask. So, I have a book. It's on Amazon. It's called Shut the Hell Up. And it's talking about the power of the tongue, what we say and how it affects our life. You can go onto Amazon right now and type in Shut the Hell Up, Shane Robb, and you'll see the book pop up, and you can buy that right now. So if you want to, hey, go buy that right now. I'd love you to go check it out. Do a call to action. Whatever your product is, whatever you're trying to achieve. Maybe it's a donation. Hey, we would love you to donate to XYZ company. We'd love you to donate to this charity. Here's how you do that. You can scan this QR code. You can, send an email here. Do a call to action. And then that's pretty much everything that I have written down. So you do a Q&A time, maybe a call to action, and then just kind of close everything out. Thank everybody for showing up. Appreciate you being here. Give them a way to connect with you further. Maybe it's email, maybe it's on social media, and wrap the thing up. So you're going to have the Q&A, which is your power time, call to action if you're selling a product or trying to take donations, and then you're ready to close out and invite people to join you on another session or connect with you in another event. So I'm going to go ahead and end with that. I'm just making sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, he put audio is more important than video. So when you're doing one of these events, make sure your audio is really working well. Because even if there's a glitch in the video, the audio, yes, you can still hear the audio. And what he was using to do this was Restream, but there's also StreamYard and several other products. And I think if you are going to give a story, which stories are usually helpful, make sure the story is relevant to the audience you're speaking to. Never give a story without a point, never give a point without a story. So, all right. Thank you for being part of this short webinar explaining the webinar I watched earlier, Present Your Webinar Like a Pro. My name is Shane Robb with Micro Message, and I look forward to seeing you again. You can reach me at themicromessage@gmail.com. You can find me and connect with me on YouTube. I'll have all the links dropped in the comments. And hey, it's not enough to give the message. We must be the message. You're not dismissed, you're sent. Have a great, fantastic week.